Potatoes are
Yeah,
okay.
but there's this bizarre entity, and we believe it's a gray alien. That there's a gray alien handler for the family, and that he's been pretending to be the spirit guide for 4 generations, going back to his great grandmother. But we think they've been kind of protecting the family and preying on the family for what they want, which is genetic material. They're after loads and loads of genetic material for their. We think it's either because their race is becoming non-viable, living underground for thousands of years, possibly. Also in space, space is long-term space living is not supposed to be good for viability.
Well,
So,
So
anyways, I should talk about the more of the shepherd's pie stuff that
yeah,
happened to my whole family in 1979, and
they tend to come in clusters, these events. So you go ahead and start.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. This is January of 1979 in Fallbrook, Woodland Hills, and suburb of Los Angeles. So, anyways, my dad, being my dad and I were cabinet makers. My dad was a master cabinet maker from wartime England, World War II. Anyway, no nonsense guy. He was a Bobby for 4 years in the Oldham Division, and he was RAF for 2 years too. So anyway, this particular morning, we were having breakfast. My dad said, my closet doors opened and closed on me last night, Stephen. And I just kind of kind of shrugged it off. Says, okay,
Yeah,
could
they
be a
shrugged it
dream,
off,
right? So the next night, this is when I was beginning to study Tai Chi. Been studying for like about a year or so, and I was reading Paramahansa Yogananda's stuff, Autobiography of a Yogi, and which I highly recommend, and his metaphysical meditations. Anyway, so I really liked this little booklet, and I gave it to my dad. I said, Dad, you should really read this. It's really interesting stuff. So about 9 o'clock at night, I gave it to him, and about a half an hour later, he came into my room with this quizzical look on his face, saying, Stephen, I'm hearing a silver bell. And I said, okay. Myself being a lifelong musician, I know what a silver bell sounds like. So I went into the living room, and sure enough, there's this silver bell being clanged, and it's coming from inside the 2x4 wall right next to the chimney. And my dad and I just look at each other, kind of look up the chimney. Then we said, well, let's get Karen. My sister was 13 at the time, and she was kind of like not wanting to have anything to do with this family spirits type
yeah. This
stuff,
is
right?
not happening. This was
Yeah.
happening.
So anyway, so we got her. We got her. We didn't tell her anything, and she walked into the room and she said, "Where's that silver bell coming from?" And sure enough, she
Bing.
heard the same thing too. We again looked up the chimney, banged on the wall, went on for about 10 minutes, and then it stopped. So the next morning, we called my mom. My mom and my brother were living in the house we were building up in Sonora, California, which is in the woods, and about 350 miles away. And my mom said to my dad, Jeffrey, um, the weirdest thing happened last night. I heard this bell, and I thought it was the phone. So I picked up the phone, and there was this voice, a male voice on the other side saying, I am the invisible Ambichi, or something along those lines. That's what she said. And
We don't know
so I
what that
got,
means.
I still was not wanting to believe any of this stuff, right? So I got my brother on the phone, and I said, Philip, did the phone ring last night? He said, no, Stephen, the phone didn't ring, but mom did pick up the phone, and she swears that
She heard it ring.
she heard it ring, and then there was this guy who said that. I said, okay, this is getting weird. So the next night, I was went to sleep in my regular bedroom, and I was awakened by a whizzing sound in the air, like a whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And I just kind of turned over and looked down the hallway. There was a little light on the kitchen, so I could kind of see down the hallway. And I thought, well, maybe some bug or something like that. So I turned over to go back to sleep. And then the bed was pushed from the base of the bed, two distinct pushes, kind of gentle. So I thought, well, Southern California, maybe it's an earthquake, trying to use logic. And again, tried to go back to sleep, wasn't asleep. And then it got pushed harder again, like, wake up. And then a third time, even harder, more of a shove this time. And at this point, I'm like, this thing, okay, is somebody playing a joke on me? And I started getting nervous, right? And then I got a tap on my deltoid below my shoulder on my right side, tap, tap, tap. Just like somebody with an index finger is saying, wake up, but three, tap, tap, tap. And at this point, I said, okay, this is ridiculous. So I rolled over and I said, what? kind of pissed off, quite frankly. So and there's like this. I see there's something there, but I can't quite see it, and then I black out. And so I told my dad about it in the morning, and I again, it's like, so the next night I did not want to sleep in my bedroom. I said, I'm not going to sleep in that bedroom again. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not sleeping there. So I wore my work clothes from the night before, and I slept in the living room on the couch. And I woke about 5:30 in the morning or so. This is January, so it was dark, and I looked at my piano, uh, thinking what music I was going to play that day, and then listened to the little fountain in the other room. So I was awake and I was alert. And from behind me, because I was sleeping face up, from behind me, about 25 feet away, was the front door. And this blue white, tall, skinny entity, about 6 to 7 feet tall, came walking, floating towards me in about a second and a half to 2 seconds, filling the whole room with intense blue white light, the blue white again, blue white light, and just stopped by my right side. And immediately, the right side of my body, like you take a knife right down the center of it, and it's paralyzed. My right eye was open at the time. I couldn't close my right eye, even if I wanted to. And I was thinking, oh, I'm going to get to see the family spirit guide, Old Glegley, that people had told me about, like my uncle and different people, my grandmother.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I'm going to see Old Glegley. But the other side of my brain is saying, dude, you are paralyzed. You can't move even if you want to. You are stiff. And so the entity bent down to my right side, to my right ear, and whispered in my ear, not in my head, but whispered, hi, Steve. I couldn't tell whether it was male or female, but I just was like still. I couldn't move. And I just wanted to like look, but I couldn't quite see its face. And then about 5 seconds later, it just turned tail and went right out the front door, and then I black out. So anyway, 6 hours later, which is the interesting part, which I still can't explain today. My dad and I were getting hungry for lunch, so I pulled out the money that I had in my right hand side pocket, the same clothes I'd been wearing, and put them on the table. And all the coins, standard American coins, they were all magnetized. Okay, I had a few nails in the pocket too, but I could pick up the coins with the coins. Didn't matter where, on the edge, on the face, didn't matter. My dad could do the same thing too, and we just looked at each other, saying, disbelief. Said, no, this isn't possible. The only thing we didn't do, we should have, found a camera somewhere and taken pictures. But
Yeah.
but anyway, so that happened. So the next night, the last night, which I have no memory of, my dad was awakened in the middle of the night by seeing, again, a wall of blue white light outside of my bedroom, because our bedrooms were like joined by a hallway so we could look at each other's bedrooms. And he saw this blue white light, big blue white light. And he, being an old cop, saying, I'm going to get up and, see what's going on, right? So he was getting out of bed, and a voice inside his head, this time inside his head, said, Jeffrey, the GEOFFREY Jeffrey, by the way,
Yeah.
the British Jeffrey, right? So he said this voice said, just go back to sleep. Nothing to see here. What's all this then? Just go back to sleep. So, and that's what he told me that about that morning. I have no memory of that at
And
all.
see, that in itself is suspicious. You've got this cop, he's awakened by this bizarre light, and it's like, what's all this then? He's halfway out of bed, and then suddenly he knocks back out of sleep, from this
Yeah.
voice. So they have the power to dampen consciousness when they want to, apparently. And uh, we've heard a lot of reading a lot of data about this. A lot of sightings, people will remember sometimes bits and pieces of the abduction, but they can't remember the face of their abductor. It's like
Not always, no.
uh, or they'll remember something that isn't, what you think it is. It's like they'll remember the face of an owl, say. And the boys, they were seeing garden gnomes, and
Until Philip finally saw the tall gray when he was 16.
right. So he had his own cluster of three incidents. He was at the Sonora House in mid Central California. It's more forested area, and his bedroom. He was asleep in bed, and he awoke to find these two white lights shining in his bedroom window. And it couldn't have been a road. There's no that particular vista. Just we looked out over forest. That went straight up in a hill. There's no houses back there or roads or anything.
There's a creek. Yeah, there's nothing there.
So he's staring at these white lights, trying to figure out what they are, and then blacks out. And then the very next night, he's laying in bed and he hears a scrabbling sound, and he thinks it's like one of the cats, maybe. So he reaches down to pet the cat, and instead of the cat, there's some hand grabs his wrist. And he feels this. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I'm out at that point.
yeah. You're definitely awake then.
So you know what you're feeling is the same thing as him. He felt this rush of adrenaline and terror
and fear. Yeah.
And then instantly blacks out. You know, and then the third night was the last night, and he awoke to see a tall gray alien standing in his bedroom doorway, and they're just for a moment the two look at each other, and then he blacks out again. And of course the fear. So you know, we don't just roll back over and fall asleep when we're terrified.
No.
So obviously this is something they're doing to us.
This was 1982.
Yeah, and the more research we did, the weirder it got, you guys. I mean, I thought I have to report this in a book. You know, I have to tell this because as we start looking at the larger data pools of the abduction event, we started seeing that about 10% of abductees are women that claim they were abducted and impregnated, and then 4 months later they're abducted again and the fetus is stolen, and sometimes years go by and they're abducted again, and they are introduced to their hybrid alien children that sure enough remind me of the description of the guy who woke up with the girl on him in bed. You know, their eyes are too large and they're green, and you know, there's like a hybrid being here. We're not talking about full human here.
And now with you know, obstetrics and with ultrasounds, now you know we have doctors that can absolutely confirm.
Yeah, that this really does happen.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you were pregnant, and now it looks like you were never pregnant. And this happens frequently to the same woman. It could be like 2, 3, 4 times in their lifetime.
All their children just stolen away. You know,
and we can
through their
confirm
life.
it. We can confirm that now. So
yeah, and you know. And so we started to look at that as like, okay, well, why? And a good one reason why is maybe to reintegrate with us and possibly infiltrate. You know,
like a bridge.
You know, create hybrids that look enough like humans that they can mix with us, mix in among us. And we think that this is because, well, you know, we've kind of told you who they are, right? The who they are in the book part, but the what they're doing and why they're doing it, it's more like they're very interested in our nukes.
Very concerned about our nukes.
Yeah, and we think that that's what they want, is us to denuclearize, and they're not getting what they want, right? So that's why they're following our military absolutely every single time we go out on maneuvers. These things are following our
that's
our
like the Commander Fravor one and all that, isn't it?
Yeah, the British, the
Russians, the Chinese, they're all reporting sort of the same
I've seen the videos, you know, from pilots, and you see there's some very famous ones, isn't there? Do you think that
the three famous ones? Yeah.
What was that question?
Sorry. Do you think they are actually living among us now? These hybrids?
Oh yes.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Because you see some weird people on the TV, don't you? Genuinely, you do. I've been watching some YouTube videos since I looked into YouTube. Obviously, my algorithm keeps throwing new alien videos. And there's
with eyes that are too large. I think I look at them twice. You know.
I think actually when I was in my 30s, when I had my acupuncture practice right next to a place called Follow Your Heart. It was a restaurant, both a restaurant and also had all the herbs that you could ever want to get. Really a good health food place to go. And we were right next door, and I was in there. I was in my mid 30s, and I met this tall guy. Obviously, he was Caucasian, and he just didn't talk or move in a way that was what I would call normal.
Quite human, yeah.
You know? But you see, this is way before I ever thought about writing a book about this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just but still to this day, that guy has stuck with me. You know, for this is like over 30 years later about 30 years later that this meeting with this guy just really sticks with me. It's like, and then, you get like the Chinese and the Russians have been caught on hot mic, especially diplomats saying that, oh yeah, you'd be surprised how many hybrids or they call
alien
aliens,
hybrids that
alien hybrids are
are living
actually
amongst us.
living amongst us. That it's not an
Yes,
uncommon thing. So
and we don't think they have a maleficent, plan. It's more like that they're trying to keep us from blowing up the world, and because they share the world with us, they're trying to save their own butts in the process.
they got skin in the game. Yeah.
And so that's why they're so concerned with I guess is the word for
That's why, yeah, that definitely, she's right. Exactly. Like during World War II, toward the end of World War II, the Foo Fighters started showing up. And, of course, the Germans thought they were the Brits. The Brits thought they were the Germans. We didn't know what to think, but they were following this. Okay. Yeah. All right. So they're sending out their little drones they had at the time,
yeah.
Following this. And then, they saw everything happening after, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You saw, Roswell. There was actually, people forget about what happened when Mussolini was still in charge in the mid 30s.
There was
actually a
in
crash
Italy
in the mid
too.
30s
Yes.
in Italy. And then there's one in
They had their own Roswell.
1941, the one that was before Roswell.
Yes, we think this is actually the government's first introduction to the beings that live under the earth, right?
Yeah.
Is in 1941 there was like a Roswell incident before Roswell, 6 years before, and this UFO crashed in Port Giardeau, I think Cape Giardeau or Port Giardeau. I can never remember.
Cape Giardeau.
Missouri. And there's a book about it, the Roswell before Roswell, I think it's called, something like that, the incident before Roswell. And so they got back a crashed alien ship and dead alien bodies, and so they from then on, and that was all hushed up quick and taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, before they created Area 51 in Nevada.
Right, that was still in the works.
So the government was aware of these things that early, and then we had the Roswell incident, of course, which they didn't cap that quickly enough, and it got out to the media, and there was the whole circus. But then after that, there was the Kingman, Arizona crash. So these things happen with frequency enough to where we know they have ships from at least 3 crashes that we know of, and probably more. According to Lazar, the inside man at Area 51, they have like 7 of these crash ships and a bunch of dead alien bodies, and supposedly some live ones. At least that they had them for a while. I don't know if they still do, but so they're quite aware of this, what they are and who they are. But it was Admiral Byrd that finally negotiated with them, had an actual face-to-face talk. And this is his diary. He talks about it in this posthumously published diary. But that's where we realized that they've been living with us for thousands of years, and that's when it makes sense. Suddenly, if they're coming here from distant star systems, what? Every 5 minutes? What? They love McDonald's? What? Why would they come here so often? 10,000 times a year they're seen every year for 50 years that we've been counting, and going way back, as far as thousands of years, we see evidence of their activities, right?
Yeah, the woodcuts you can see, like space battles. It's just like it's just ridiculous when you really kind of look at the multitude of evidence.
Right.
And for it's like in Admiral Byrd's diary, the master, quote unquote master that he met with was a tall Caucasian guy with a slightly Germanic accent. Part of the
white hair, blue eyes.
He said, we normally try not to get involved with you barbarians on the surface.
Yeah, you in your barbaric wars with people.
We don't feel and think the same way you do. We try and keep out of it. But once you crack the atom, then we started getting seriously worried. People forget that since the Hiroshima and Hiroshima, we've done, at least to my count, 2,000 detonations on this planet, counting aerial, subsurface, and the subwater detonations. We've detonated 2,000 hydrogen and atomic bombs. And now you got North Korea that is just bonkers.
Yeah, definitely.
They're totally bollocks.
Let's blow up the world.
They're bloody bollocks, these people, you know. Anyway, so it's like, you know, come on, how many nuclear bombs do you have to explode to say, okay, nuclear weapons do work? You know, how many more whales do you want to build?
That is a very, very good point. I mean, that
good question, yeah.
this whole the history bit is read it, how far I've read into your book. This is the most interesting bit to me. It genuinely is. The bits about like what we would call cowboys. When it goes back to, I've forgotten the exact date. Is it 1864? Is that a date that I remember from your book?
Yeah, there's a big UFO sighting in that time period.
And how they're described. Is this a newspaper report? Like, where did you get this information from? Because this was honestly fascinating me.
Yeah, I in the back of the book, I reference a lot of this came from a website where this guy collected them. He collected hundreds of these things. And I filtered out ones I thought were less credible than others, and that's the ones I put mostly in the book. And also, of course, I'd heard about other sightings from other sources and stuff.
Yeah.
But that was one of this one website was great. Just you'd click on it and then it would give you the entire history of the event, you know, and then, you know, go on down to the next one and click on that.
You know, the nice thing, when I really started doing my serious research about when I was 34 years ago, I read, or, you know, there was before, you know, smartphones and the internet and all that kind of stuff. I did a lot of my research just by researching, just reading books, you know,
lots of books.
You know, Hancock's work, William Bramley's work, which I highly recommend, which is The Gods of Eden. You know, gives you a lot of insight even into the creation of money and you know, mass sightings that occurred in Europe, you know, back in the 14th and 13th century. You know,
and I have in college, I majored in animation, but I minored in ancient art history, and that did come in very handy in researching a lot of this stuff too. You know how we have, excuse me, Graham Norton, I think. Graham Hancock. I'm sorry, Graham Hancock. I confuse him with Graham Norton because I love him. I love this guy's talk show. So
we literally had some questions written down, you know, to prompt us. We haven't needed it because we actually was going to ask you about Graham Hancock, because a lot of the things that you say, you could directly correlate with what he writes. But he obviously doesn't say aliens. He thinks advanced civilizations, but the alien races, they could be the advanced. But they
could be us, mostly us. Yeah. The thing, if the Anunnaki thing is true, like they really did uplift us, they used their own DNA. So in that case, then all of us are part alien. So are aliens involved at all? Well, yes, if you give any credit to the Anunnaki coming here. Yeah. But even they are coming from this planet called Nibiru that it's supposed to have this enormous 3,600 year orbit. That goes around a brown dwarf in the direction of Orion, which, by the way, a brown dwarf has been discovered in the direction of Orion from the IRIS telescope in 1986.
Right.
But so that could be true. And so if this is true, though, that this planet comes every 3,600 years near us, and Nibiru is the home of the Anunnaki, as the Sumerians tablets claim, you know, it's not like us making this stuff up, right? This is Sumerian tablets claiming this. Then they're still part of our solar system. So when we say that these beings are not coming from distant star systems, it's true. If this is our alien connection, if the Anunnaki and this planet, it really exists, comes through every 3,600 years, they're not coming here from Arcturus and the Pleiades and, you know, Sirius and all different places around the solar system. They're
in the general direction.
They're in our solar system with us. It's just we only see them every 3,600 years, and even then they don't need super light travel. That's one of the things I like about our theory. Is it doesn't require any theoretical physics to be true, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to have just faster than light travel, which is a whole thing that may or may not be possible according to Einstein, right?
And interdimensional.
You don't need a wormholes. You don't need interdimensional travel. You don't need time travel. They're just here sharing our solar system with us, and our government is hiding it from us because they're in league with each other, keeping the secret.
And they keep everything from us.
Yeah, we do see that they have the ability to manipulate matter. Like, for instance, create duck blinds. Like, they're frequently seen flying in and out of mountains that looks like they're flying into rock, but it's not really rock. It's just
it's like a hole opens up in the side of the mountain, and the UFOs fly in and out of them. That's another thing we were hearing report after report after report. And Steve's second sighting, he saw a UFO come up out of the ocean and do bizarre maneuvers over Malibu and took off again north.
Yeah, this was with the valet that was getting my car. This was 2004.
You said
2004. Yeah, I was just getting a dinner at the Chart House, which is right on the coast of Malibu in Southern California, and which apparently I didn't know at the time, which is a really hot spot for UFOs. So this was in October of 2004, and he brought my car, and just happened to look out to the ocean. It was nighttime again, always nighttime, and there was this UFO that came out of the ocean, did this hovering thing,
like a white Tic Tac, shaped light,
kind of like that. And did its thing, did a couple weird maneuvers, and then
zigzaggy motions,
and then shot up the coast, up north. And I said, "Did you see that?"
And my point was,
said, yes.
Bringing this up was that this report happens a lot, where people see them coming flying up out of lakes, or up out of the ocean, or up out of the volcano, or out of the side of the mountain, or out of the side of a mesa or a ridge, or some underground base that they have on our planet. And that's what we're saying, is that they're launching these things. They're launching their UFOs from their underground, or in the case of the Ariane, under ice, worlds that are essentially, hiding from us for thousands of years.
Basically found that it's a lot safer for,
safer underground.
Again, we get back to like what the billionaires are doing now. They figured out the same thing, that it's a lot safer.
You don't have to worry about hurricanes.
It's climate controlled.
And lightning and tornadoes
floods and anything.
Lithospheric shifts and comets and asteroid impacts.
Yeah, exactly. It's a smart. If you have the technology to do it, why wouldn't you do it?
One of my children wanted to ask you, because I told them we were interviewing you, and they came up with some questions. And one of them is, why did they crash if they're so advanced? Do we shoot them down?
We have our theory on that, too.
Yeah, okay, so...
she'll take it.
When the Ariane... They basically said they didn't want to have anything to do with us because, these people, they're barbarians and they're wars. So they mothballed their ships, right? And they're not bothering, coming back up to the surface. And so suddenly they have to monitor our nukes every time we have nukes anywhere, or, so I think they unmothballed their older ships at first, and were crashing them because they hadn't used them in a long time. And they're also using the gray aliens as their pilots.
As their slave race,
yeah. Yeah, we think that the Nordics are the ones in charge, and they're actually using the grays as like a slave, do everything for us race,
because humans make terrible slaves.
Yeah, and we think they used to use us as slaves thousands of years ago, and that we make rotten slaves. We just are too much willpower and stuff.
Just
so
on that.
I think that it's not because they flew here from other star systems and then just crash because they're so incompetent. It's more like they had to suddenly scramble and follow our nukes every single place we were sending them all over the planet. And now, so the crashing thing has kind of stopped. That was more like when they were first doing it, right, in the 40s and the 50s and stuff, that when they were doing most of their crashing. And now they have, like the guys, they've upgraded their technology. Like the Red Rippers in the hearings of the congressional hearings last summer where they had the pilots, the two pilots, and the whistleblower guy. Did you guys catch any of that?
No.
No.
Anyway, we had a hearing about UFOs on the congressional floor, you know. And
yes, was this a few years ago?
Yeah, it was last summer.
It was last summer.
Yeah, we did hear about this. Yeah, basically, your government admitted to having aliens, and nobody listened.
You know, crash ships and aliens. So this whistleblower, David Grush, was saying that. He said, "Oh yeah, we have crash ships and biologics, and this is supposed to be true, right?" But that was not news to us ufology people. We figured, we knew this, right, that they've had these ships and these dead alien bodies. But what was news to us was that that they're following us every single time our military goes out on maneuvers. That's what the pilots testified to. So the Red Rippers, especially on the East Coast, they fly out of Virginia.
Is that like our Red Arrows?
The Red Rippers are a squadron of planes that fly out of the Oceana base.
Do they have colours
Virginia.
coming out the back?
Oh, colors? I'm sorry.
We have what are they called?
The Red Arrows.
The Red Arrows. We just wondered if it was the same thing. They're like a display team.
Oh, I don't think. I don't know.
I mean, talk about a like the RAF.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they call them Red Rippers, but maybe it has something to do with that. But this is the pilots that caught the two videos that were released by Elizondo that called Go Fast and Gimbal, the ones that are all over the web, you know. And if you haven't seen them, those are a must-see.
Oh, they've seen them. It's from 2017.
Yeah, so that's a must-see. But one of the pilots at this hearing said that these things are about 15 foot in diameter. They look like glass spheres. And inside they have a black cube, a spinning black cube inside of the thing. Especially when it hovers, you see this thing like spinning quick. And you'll see if you look at a lot of orb videos that are, like UFO orb kind of videos, you'll see this. It looks like a crystal ball in the sky with something flickering. And I think that's this cube that he's talking about. One of these things flew right between two of their jets when they were out on maneuvers one time, missing the jets by like 50 feet. And it was going at supersonic speed. And
hypersonic, actually, yeah.
And so they're of course this is dangerous for the pilots, but I don't think we're dealing with a manned craft of any kind with these spheres. I think they use them as like spy drones.
Like a
probe. And so they're following our military with these things everywhere we go out. Absolutely everywhere we go out.
Yeah, the Chinese, it doesn't matter. They report the same things, just less so. Chinese, of course, are a lot more reticent about this kind of stuff to keep it closed.
Right.
But so.
And we think when they went underground, they took some herds of cattle with them and some other domesticated animals. And we think those animals also need regular infusion of DNA from surface creatures. And that's what the whole mutilation thing is, the whole cattle.
Always taking the blood. Again, DNA. It always gets down to DNA.
And the sex organs and the sky-facing eye only, which I think means that, I think that proves that they're doing this surgery in the field with some sort of maybe robot or something that does it in the middle of the night.
Or the grays.
Because there's never any footprints around the fallen animal. And they only take the sky-facing eye. So if you took the cow up into the ship, why not take both eyes? I'm saying, you know. And so if you want them, obviously they want them enough to take them from the dead animal in the field. So, but I don't think the robot flips them over and then takes
because it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't. It just comes along and takes the.
What do you think that's what's happening at Skinwalker Ranch?
Oh yes, I think there's a one of these underground bases we're talking about. I believe there's one in the ridges just off of Skinwalker. I saw one of the early videos I saw from the Skinwalker guys was something that is a signature for an underground alien base, which is one of the videos was of the ridge area above the ranch, and suddenly in the middle of the night, a bright white light just paints the whole area from right to left. So it's coming from the right ridge somewhere.
From behind, yeah.
And it just paints the whole, all of the mountains in that area with bright white light. And then you see UFOs flying in, these lights going in and out of the light. and then it just shuts off black again. So that's what I'm saying. When they open these doors, we hear Indians, Native Americans,
they have a
describing it too.
Yeah.
They'll be looking at a ridge. It'll open, and a white light will spill out of it, and UFOs will fly in and out of it. This is at the Archuleta Mesa for the Dulce Air Force Base, which is this UFO joint UFO base, you know.
Yeah, the American Indians are not as xenophobic as we white people are. They say there are space brothers, there are friends. They've been here for a long time,
thousands of years.
They saved us, like the Hopi Indians have their story. The Modocs have their story about like around like Mount Shasta. Now there's different. They look at it totally differently than we do.
Mount Shasta is an obvious one of these obvious bases because people see it's a UFO hotbed area, and Mount Hayes is another one in Alaska. In Alaska, Mount Denali, there's a black pyramid base under Mount Denali. I mean, these are
near Mount Denali.
The whole UFO community is kind of buzzes with the knowledge of these underground bases. And so this is why we don't believe they're coming here from distant star systems.
And that's also true why we don't try, we really, Leslie and I really try not to jump down rabbit holes. Number one, because I come from a post-war British family, very no nonsense. You look at the facts and what would make more sense. What actually is like, what's in other words, just look at what would make more sense. Right. That's probably what it is.
I did do that. I tried applying Occam's razor logic to our theories.
Yeah.
After we started, so much stuff clicked into place too. And as soon as I said this is the new theory that they're coming from underground and that the Ariani live under the ice sheet, as soon as I put that as the theory, so many things clicked into place. All these ancient stories about populations going underground, just in England, the Tuatha De Danann in Ireland,
yes.
And the Druids in England and Scotland. We believe these are all connected peoples, and that at some point there's stories about them retreating underground. Like, why? Why would you retreat underground? Oh, there's a giant comet coming that's going to kill us all. That's a good reason.
Another connection is where did Jesus go? He went inside a tomb, didn't he?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happened inside caverns too, like people having religious experiences, going into caves,
Yeah.
And the guy Muhammad, who did the Islam, he went into a cave and emerged with the Quran, his religious texts,
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times it's because they're actually reached into the underground world, and made contact with.
You're actually blowing my mind.
People,
Shangri-La in Tibet.
Genuinely, when you are saying your theories, like my background's in science, I'm a biologist. Like when you're talking about DNA and stuff, that's my forte. But what you are saying, when you're piecing together everything that you've said,
right,
it literally makes sense.
Just fits.
Genuinely, I can't.
Yeah. What's the most easy explanation? What's the most, the easiest possible explanation, right?
What do the facts lead you to? What conclusion do the facts lead you to? And it's plus, see, I have the advantage from the standpoint that I've had with my family so many personal experiences. And I came to the conclusion at a certain point that this family spirit guide thing just wasn't, it wasn't adding up.
It's not a ghost.
There was something more to
it's
it.
Not,
And then I got my science background through acupuncture and did my 6 years in the military, as a CB in the United States, 80 to 86. So I come at it from, being a cabinet maker, being in the military, teaching Tai Chi for 23 years, and being an acupuncturist for over 20, and writing a book, and being a musician my whole life, and then having my families, from England, having and Germany, having all these stories and these tales that I was told. One of them that we did before we run out of time, let's touch on the one. My uncle Douglas, who was married to my mom's older sister, he was also in the RAF, just post World War II, and he was stationed in Ceylon, which is now Sri Lanka. And he knew about O'Glegley. He'd heard about the tales, right? So he's not a Shaw, he's not a Rowe, he's not, a Newman, but he's a Griffiths. That was his last name. So, anyways, he was awakened in his cot in one of these multi-man tents that they were, stationed in at that time in Ceylon, and this a tall, skinny figure wearing a red fez, looked like a black man wearing a red fez, woke him up and said, Douglas, just happened to know his name, said, Douglas, you have to leave right now because you're going to be attacked by a rebel group and you might be killed. And so he gets out of his cot, and then the entity is gone.
It just vanishes right in front of him,
He took the warning seriously, so he got out and he got outside. Sure enough, about a minute or two later, a raiding party came through with machetes and some guns and killed several of the officers. And he told me this story a couple different times when I was a young man, like in my teens and in my whatever, and he was deadly serious about this. In fact, my aunt and uncle were so serious about it that their daughter, their first car they bought for her was a Triumph, right? He was pretty well off because what he did for a living. But anyway, so they bought her a Triumph, and her license plate was O'Glegley.
Yeah, like a tribute, it's like, thanks for saving my life.
They gave her the vanity plate, and the vanity plate was O'Glegley. Okay, only the people in the family knew what that meant. Yeah. Number one, they wouldn't even know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
But it was pronounced O'Glegley.
And in my theories, the way I see it is that it's like they're harvesting a product more than they're taking scientific samples, right? They're taking something they need, like a farmer takes milk from his cow, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so, but the farmer also protects his cow from predators so it's both their prey and predator, and so there's like this long-term relationship that goes on for generations.
Yeah.
And I know it couldn't be any stranger than if we were making it up.
That's what the facts show.
I mean, when you look at it that way, I can't get over the fact that what you say just makes so much sense. It really does. I can't even come up with anything that could be. We're going to have you back on, and I'm going to challenge you.
All right, yeah.
When get some contradictory stuff around.
Maybe after we launch our second edition,
I'll have to buy that one as well.
Book where we make the corrections.
I mean, honestly, my brain is fried.
It's so embarrassing though.
Is your daughter also reading the book?
No, I'll let her know.
Yeah, she gets a little older, maybe.
Yeah, but a lot of the things you've said just resonate with me and my own experiences, and I think that's why you're blowing my mind. Because when you're normal, shall I say, like this, your standard human being who doesn't believe any of this, you just put it down to, you come up with any excuse,
like crop circles. Farmers do it.
Yeah. I mean, one of our friends saw a flying saucer, and it was genuinely upset. I wasn't there at the time, but it was. You know about the story?
Yeah. No, it's my younger brother's friend, and he said he was like sat outside on a chair, and he said like a big blue light shone, and I think he got his girlfriend at the time out, and she like corroborated it as well. But ever since then, it turned him. He just became an absolute fanatic. He swears by it, absolutely blindly swears by it.
The weird thing about the story is...
Our book too.
And then I will. And then these crop circles appeared at
Sandal Castle
near us.
Yeah.
Where we live in Wakefield, which is near Leeds. And we have a very old castle. And he saw that, and then the next day, in the newspaper, there was a crop circle. Genuinely, that's genuine. Yeah. You can even trace the days, everything, and it's in our Wakefield Express, the corn circle.
Yep.
That was next to Sandal Castle.
It was right near you, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, I walked to Sandal Castle.
I have a theory on crop circles. You want to hear them?
Yeah, I tell you what,
okay.
we'll finish on this one.
We'll finish.
Oh yeah, let's save it till next time.
And
right?
make sure to give them my sister's information too.
Okay, yeah, at ghostly locations.
I really want to hear the crop circles.
Yeah, you can mention.
What's your theory? Yeah. You can't dangle a carrot.
Okay, well, so when Eisenhower made an arrangement. They met with the Nordic aliens. This is our in ufology circles, this meeting is supposed to have really happened.
This is our working theory, yeah.
And we believe at this time that they set a disclosure date, and that it was the humans that didn't want this information disclosed, mainly because,
the disruption of things like,
we were afraid of our people just going bonkers, like it happened with the War of the Worlds program,
1938,
yeah.
So we think when they made this deal that, okay, just give us like 50 odd years and we'll, however many years it was, that, and we'll start, in pop culture, we'll try and get people used to the idea of aliens. And we think that our pop culture since then has proven that to be true, right? Is there's so much alien stuff out there in our movies and our magazines and our comic books and everything, right? So I think they were trying to like desensitize us to it so we wouldn't freak out when the disclosure date came. But that date has come and gone, we believe, and we believe the aliens are getting restless. Our cousins rather are getting restless and want disclosure to happen. So we think that they're using crop circles as a way of communicating with the scientific community, because they hide hidden messages inside these things. There's all kinds of hidden messages, and there's like one of the big ones in England had binary language, essentially, talking about how the disclosure is coming soon.
Experiment almost complete.
Yeah. The experiment almost complete. So we don't really know what the crop circles mean exactly, but we think that's them reaching out to us and skipping over the military and trying to reach into the scientific community.
Right.
We also think that like the Phoenix Light was an example of them trying to like force disclosure, force the hand of disclosure. Because the Phoenix Lights incident, people don't realize, this started in Nevada. So it starts over like Vegas and slowly covers the entire state of Arizona, making sure to fly over the densest population center of Phoenix and then fly slowly into Mexico. So they did this. I'm thinking, what, are they joyriding? Does one of their kids to steal the spaceship for the evening, But it makes sense now when I think about the disclosure date having been passed, that maybe they're also, the aliens' message, whenever they do give a message to people, it's take better care of the planet and stop destroying the planet and stop destroying, the food chains.
Yeah, the children in Zimbabwe, that was a very famous one too.
And stop using nukes. That's the message again and again and again. So this is what they're after, and we think that these the crop circles are a way for them to reach out to us and communicate with us.
Well, that's
fair logic. Yeah.
I'm gonna need about 2 days to process all.
Yeah, I've not said a lot because I've just been like blown away just from start. I've just been listening. It's been really good.
And
should we wrap up with a shameless plug of our book one more time?
Oh, absolutely.
You can plug away. We will be plugging it.
Yeah, we've got it too.
Genuinely good book.
What they're up to.
It is honestly, as I say,
what they're up to. It's available by Leslie and Stephen Shaw.
Available on Amazon.
Amazon and Ingram Books, whichever you prefer.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have an Instagram page that I'm trying to send people to. I want to hear more stories. I want more data. If people want to share their stories with us, please direct message us on Instagram. We'd be happy to talk. And our email is there too.
Right.
Instagram, and also we have all of Steve's family stories there written out in series form, because there's too many to go into in any one podcast.
And reels. We have a lot of stuff.
Yeah, lots of stuff there. So
a lot of posts.
A lot of cool things.
We'll put
the handle. Oops, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say we will put all your descriptions and everything in the link.
Yeah.
But you can finish. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay, so we sometimes cut over. But sorry.
Instagram is @leslie.shaw.author.
Yeah, leslie.shaw.author, and Leslie is Leslie spelling.
Yeah.
Shaw SHAW.author, and that's it. We have a website too. I'm sorry. whotheyarebook.com, and we have excerpts there, blogs, and links to any of our podcasts that we've done. So we'll put the link there, of course, too. You know.
Well,
thank you very much.
We'll spread the word, because honestly,
Thank
you've
you so
honestly
much,
genuinely been so amazing. I'm being so blown away. We haven't even asked you any other questions.
No, I've got loads. We'll I've just listened.
I promise I'll send you links to everything. And
right,
okay.
I have all your press details. We'll put all that, and honestly, genuinely, thank you. It's blown my mind, and we're going to have you on again. And
thanks to your listeners. Thank you, listeners.
Right, enjoy the rest of the sunshine.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you both. Bye.
Bye.
Jesus.
You need a piss, don't you?
What?
You need a piss, don't you?
I don't know. I'm just boiling hot. Turn the shit off.